Welcome back to Law and Crime, everybody. I'm Jesse Weber, joined by criminal defense attorney Angela Dorn. We have a lot to cover, so let's get started right now. First up, again, we're waiting for the live feed in the Charles Merritt case out of California. We expect to be live at around 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but if something should happen in the courtroom beforehand, we'll make sure to let you know. In the meantime, our focus is going to switch and go on a trial that we covered some time ago. But again, another trial that just stays with you. It's the trial of Donald Smith, a man who was convicted of abducting, raping, and murdering an 8-year-old girl named Cherish Periwinkle, a girl that he took from a Walmart right in front of her mother. We're going to talk more about the details of this case, but before we do that, something happened about last week, maybe 2 weeks ago, that was groundbreaking in this case. There was audio and released from the prison where Donald Smith was, where he was speaking to his mother about these crimes. And if you haven't seen this, it is so disturbing but incredible to watch. So this is Donald Smith, not being aware that he's being videotaped, speaking with his mother. Take a look.
I have moved her out of the building. She's not letting me ask if she ran out. She touched herself to me. So I'm thinking about it, telling security, hey man. But he drives off. He's right in front of my van. He drives by. As she runs up, I've got my van going. She just comes right in the van. That's what I told Harry. He says, man, he says, what she got in your van? You fuck. How do you recognize me? I don't view children as sexual objects. I don't view them as sexual objects or sexual partners. All I know is that I snapped. And the next thing I know is I'm sitting in the driver's seat of my van. And my breathing is ragged. And I look back seat. She's dead. Dead. And I swear, I don't remember one minute. I was so far gone.
He eventually tells his mother that he did sexually assault her. And Angela, as we're watching this behavior of a man who's trying to explain away why he killed an 8-year-old, is that behavior that you see of other kinds of defendants, other people who have been accused and convicted of child-related crimes?
In my experience, I have seen that a lot. Many times the accused themselves, perhaps they can't admit to themselves what they have done or what they are. And certainly everybody wants to look good to their mother, to the people who they love and who love them. They want to keep that love flowing. So they, in their minds, they come up with these wild stories about, I'm not that person, I don't know what happened.
And here, apparently, also manipulating his mother. What a guy. What a guy. Let's continue on and let's go back to the Donald Smith case. And we're going to start with the prosecution's opening statement.
Cherish Periwinkle was 8 years old. She weighed 67 pounds. Separated from her mother, her little sisters, from all she knew is safe in this world. She spent the last petrifying hours of her life with him. He gagged her. He raped her. He sodomized her. And then he strangled her. He gagged her with such force, her gums and her nostrils bled. He strangled her with such force, her eyeballs bled. Cherish did not die quickly, and she did not die easily. In fact, hers was a brutal and tortured death. And after he killed her, he pulled her little, lifeless body through the woods pushed it under the water, forced it under a tree, and took asphalt, bricks, and debris and weighted her down. Ladies and gentlemen, the evidence in this case, piece by piece, we will present to you and show you and prove to you an insurmountable case of guilt in this case. So what can you expect? Defense counsel told you last week that the evidence in this case is both gut-wrenching and gruesome. Those were their words. It is graphic. It is disturbing. And while last week during jury selection there were moments of levity where we, and he, even laughed, I assure you there are no moments of laughter in this trial. I do not think it will be an overstatement to say that each of you will be changed at the end of this trial. The evidence is graphic, but every person has a constitutional right to confront the evidence against him, no matter the weight, the nature, or the volume of that evidence. It is your job to look at that evidence. The evidence of his destruction.
That was the prosecution laying out their case against Donald Smith. And again, he was accused of luring Rain Periwinkle, the mother, and her daughters, including Cherish, to this Walmart with the promise that he had a gift card for them. They were in financial distress. And the idea that this gift card, who had it? He said his wife was on the way with the gift card. There was no gift card, there was no wife, this was all a lie. And then at one point, while they're all in the Walmart and he offered to help pay for them what they needed, Cherish says to her mother, Rain Periwinkle, what would you like? He and I are going to go to the McDonald's in the Walmart. And the last thing Rain Periwinkle says to her child, Cherish, is a cheeseburger. Now, what is the defense going to say in their opening statement? Listen very carefully to what they say about the actions of the mother, Rain Periwinkle. Take a look.
Good morning. We are here in this courtroom because the state of Florida is seeking the death penalty. And you have just heard an emotionally charged opening statement designed to anger you. What we are asking you to do, as Americans in this country, is demand the state of Florida live up to the burden of proof, for they share it alone. Do not make any fixed opinion at this moment, but listen to all of the questioning, including the cross-examination. I will be upfront with you. There will be many people, Mr. Fletcher and I do not cross-examine. We will help you test this evidence that the state brings forward. And unfortunately with that, means that we will cross-examination. Rain Periwinkle. You're also going to hear, I anticipate, from two people that were married at the time, the Rosiers. They were in, waiting for their father, with their little, I believe, newborn baby, in the parking lot. And a white van comes over, and they roll down the window, and never having known one another before, this stranger says, "Follow us. We're going to get cheeseburgers." Ultimately, they will come in and they will identify that stranger. And they will tell you, "We don't know if anyone else was in that van, but we literally thought maybe we do know him, maybe he somehow knows the father they were trying to wait." So they'd eventually go to McDonald's that's physically outside of Walmart, about 2 miles away. They didn't move to them. All of these details will be important, ladies and gentlemen, for you to make legal decisions in this case. On June 22nd, 2013, a beautiful young child lost her life. And I won't mince words, it is horrendously tragic.
Okay, Angela, I want to ask you, I've seen this 1,000 times, and to this day I'm still not entirely sure. What was the defense's strategy here? They ultimately never cross-examined Rain Periwinkle, so whatever strategy they had, they ultimately abandoned, but what was their technique here? What was their strategy?
I'll say a few things about that. I mean, the defense is in a tough spot. They have a really offensive person that they're trying to represent, so they have to come up with some other way of softening him by blaming somebody else. But it looked like the defense attorney was moving towards was blaming the mother for not being a responsible mother. What type of mother would allow her child to be with somebody who she found creepy upon sight? They have to do something to figure out how to take the attention off of Mr. Smith, who's, disgusting. So they bring in somebody else to take the blame.
But how does that change the impact of what he did? How does that lower the offense? Does it, from a legal point of view?
From a legal point of view, it doesn't. You're hoping to soften up like the trier of fact, the people who are deciding whether or not Mr. Smith will live or die. If he's not the only person who's to blame in this, perhaps you can find a way out of applying the death penalty to him. I mean, I don't know tons about this case, but it seems likely that this individual is going down. The defense attorney has to present some defense, so they're looking for a beyond the reasonable doubt type argument.
He was ultimately convicted and he was sentenced to death, and we're re-examining this trial for a lot of different reasons, partly because it just stays with you, this kind of case, but also understanding the tactics put forward. What we are going to do, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, let's play you the testimony of Rain Periwinkle when she took the stand, and you can only imagine how difficult that was for her. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. We're revisiting the Donald Smith trial, the man who was on trial for kidnapping, sexually assaulting or raping, and killing 8-year-old Cherish Periwinkle. Where we last left off, we were playing in the defense's opening statement where they seemed to put the blame on the mother, Rain Periwinkle, that it was her duty to watch over her child, and how could she let her walk off with Donald Smith in that Walmart to go to the McDonald's? Well, let's see what Rain Periwinkle had to say when she was on the stand. And remember, think about how difficult it was for her to be on the stand and talking about this. And we'll talk more about it on the other side. Okay, so what you're hearing is that Donald Smith had told her that he has this money, this gift card, his wife is bringing it, she's on her way, she's on her way, she's on his way. There is no wife, there is no gift card. All in an attempt to trap them in that Walmart. He even said to her, I want you to feel safe with me. And at this point, what you're about to hear is he walks off with Cherish to that McDonald's in the Walmart. Take a listen.
At some point, did the defendant walk towards the front of the store where the McDonald's was?
Yes.
Did Cherish follow after him?
Yes.
What about the other two girls? Did they stay with you?
Yes.
Ma'am, why did you feel it okay to let Cherish walk to McDonald's with the defendant?
If he would have asked me if he could take her, I would have said no. But because McDonald's is inside Walmart with people around, I knew she would never leave my side.
Well, you've seen the photograph in the state's exhibit here. Did you know and believe that there were surveillance cameras in the Walmart?
Yes, I did.
You knew the McDonald's was in the Walmart, right?
Yes.
Did you feel that if Cherish went to the McDonald's with him inside the Walmart that she would be safe?
Yes.
Had you known that they were going to leave the store, would you have let Cherish leave the store with the defendant?
No.
Did he ever ask you, can Cherish come with me to leave the store?
No.
Would you have ever let your child leave the store and leave the Walmart with this defendant?
No.
Okay, let's talk about it. Angela, this testimony is heartbreaking on a lot of different levels. So I want just two things. First, your perspective on what she's testifying to. And two, if you're the defense attorney, are you surprised they dropped that theory, that strategy of trying to cross-examine her in the end? Because really, what could they cross-examine her on? I'm curious your perspective on both points.
Okay, I think I'll start with my perspective on the testimony. Yeah, it really was heartbreaking. That's the exact word that came into my mind. And you also see a mother on the stand. She knows that she's made a mistake, and she's admitting that to the world. That mistake, though, we all can see shouldn't have cost her the life of her child. It shouldn't have cost Cherish's life. And you kind of understand while it was an error, she was in a desperate situation. And this man made himself seem normal. He calls up a fake wife who's not there to try to make himself seem normal. He's a criminal. Criminals are good at manipulating people. They can see your weak spots. And she fell into almost all of his weak spots, needing money, appearing to be somebody who cared about others. And she fell for it. So it was, I admire her in some ways to have gone through that and to have presented so well. Am I surprised that the other side didn't question her? No. I saw the face of Mr. Smith's counsel during that testimony. His lead counsel was looking grim because she could see how this was playing. And it was playing that her client hurt somebody, manipulated them, and took advantage of a poor family and killed a kid.
It's just tragic. It's just a tragic case. And when we come back, what we're going to do is play the testimony of Officer Charles Wilkie, who was a K-9 officer, and he is going to talk more about the discovery of Cherish Periwinkle. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. We're revisiting the Donald Smith case right now, and where we last left off, we were talking about how Cherish Periwinkle was abducted from that Walmart by Donald Smith. He ultimately raped and killed her. He was found guilty across the board and sentenced to death. But before we get to that, let's talk about the discovery of Cherish Periwinkle's body. And that discovery we really learned about from Officer Charles Wilkie, a K-9 officer who testified in the Donald Smith case. Take a look.
I'm sorry.
When you arrived and you said, "Where is the water?"
Oh, no, ma'am, I could not see the creek from where I was at.
Okay.
I misunderstood. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Can you, I don't know that this photograph will be the best, but can you show the jury where you and Gator arrived using this photograph?
Well, we were way over further out this way. I'm trying to make a little error on there, but we were further out to the right of the screen, and then we initially started our search further back up in this area along the wood line.
Let me show you what's been introduced into evidence at State's Exhibit 16. Is this, in fact, a photograph of the wood line that you've described?
Yes, ma'am.
So will you describe for the jury, after you instructed Gator to work to track what he did?
Initially, when I got him out, we were down, as you can see, where the orange tracks are at. That's where there was tire tracks there that we believed came from the van. And you can see it's pretty close proximity, if you look back to the right hand of the screen, to where the wood line is. So initially, when I told him the command to souk or to track, he actually went a little bit to the left and he started tracking right down the tire tracks because he put out there's a lot of scent there because it was a van or a car that was driven.
Okay, Angela, as we listen to the details of how the body was found and how awful and graphic this whole was, one of the questions that comes up constantly in this case is why was Donald Smith allowed to be out free? It was only 3 weeks before he committed this crime that he was released from a previous sex crime conviction, and a psychologist in 2002 recommended that he not be released from prison, that he's a danger to children. So I guess what's happening in the criminal justice system that he was allowed out?
I think we have to acknowledge that we have some failures within our criminal justice system. We put a lot of money into putting people in jail, but we don't put as much time and attention into managing them afterwards. I mean, I'd say a couple of things. The officer's testimony right there shows us just how devastating the loss of a child, finding a child under those circumstances, is to the entire community. And he himself was obviously affected by finding this child's body. And we need to shift our resources within the criminal justice system to make sure that recommendations like that psychologist, which is that this guy never get out and never be around children, are followed. We don't do enough of that, unfortunately.
Can this guy be, could someone like this ever be rehabilitated?
There's a lot of debate about that.
Right.
Many people believe, and I think I'm one of them actually, that it's very hard for sexual offenders, particularly those who are sexual offenders of young children, to be rehabilitated. There have been a few, but most are not successfully rehabilitated. And frankly, that's why this guy himself said when he got this child that she had to go, because he knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And he would be back in jail if his crime was was discovered.
The reason I asked you that is because after our next break, we're going to play another jailhouse recording where Mr. Smith seems to brag about what he did. We'll be right back.
Officer Carter, the voice that just said, "I'd like to run into her at Walmart," is that the voice of the defendant?
Yes, sir.
Let me just inquire. The voice that we just heard that said, "Cherish has some butt on her," that was not this defendant, correct?
Yes, sir.
That was the other inmate in the adjacent cell.
Yes, sir.
The last voice that was depicted there that said, "Because she ain't black, but she had a lot for a white girl," was that the voice of this defendant?
Yes, sir.
Officer Carter, this recording was made 2 years after the defendant was arrested, wasn't it?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I don't know.
And do we wonder why his defense team didn't put on a case? Do we wonder why he was easily convicted and sentenced to death? I don't think so. Now, Angela, what do you think about that? I mean, I don't think you've ever heard this before, so I'm curious your reaction.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that testimony before. I think it's devastating. It's devastating for the defendant. It's clear that he has no remorse about being interested in young girls. He's calling 12-year-old girls his target area, exactly what he goes for. In fact, he's lying. What he goes for are 8-year-olds, 8-year-olds who have a butt on them. It's devastating, and it's incredible.
Yeah, it's so chilling. Also, coupled with these photos of them leaving the Walmart is just an unbelievably sad how this all happened. These jailhouse recordings, though, we see constantly defendants being a little open-lipped and talking and speaking. This is common. There's no legal issues with being brought into evidence.
No, it is common, and defendants know that when they're in the jailhouse, they're in the government's realm. Lots of times they're set up in the jailhouse by other criminals who are going to get a deal if they can get something out of them. So you're taking a risky game when you start talking in the jailhouse.
Why would he be bragging about this? Again, and correct me if I'm wrong, but in prison culture, the people that abuse children don't fare too well. So why would he be bragging about this?
He probably thinks that he's found an ally, that he's found somebody else who's into the same things that he's into. He's not thinking very deep, smarter than him in this case, and might be setting him up. He needs allies because you're right. In prison cultures, guys like him, they get the business. So he's looking for somebody he can relate to.
He's on death row. What's his life like right now?
Well, let's hope that we know that it's not pleasant. And I think that in our hearts, most of us hope that it's as not unpleasant as possible. He could still be taken out by a fellow prisoner given what he is convicted of. He's not having a good life.
And real quick, we have about 10 seconds. He's not going to be executed tomorrow. It might take some time.
It could take years. It could take years. He has multiple appeals that he can go for.
Interesting. Angela, stand by. I know you're sticking around to cover the next case that we're going to be focusing on here on Law and Crime. I'm going to be signing out, but Judge Ashley Wilcott is going to be signing in. And guess what she's going to guide you through? Charles Merritt, because that California case is going to be back live in that courtroom, maybe in a half hour or so. Again, the case of a man who's accused of killing an entire family and then burying their bodies in the Mojave Desert. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.